haven't noticed lately, there's been a lot of information out about election fraud. Well, how that got on the table or even got anybody's attention is because of this next guest that we're going to have speak to us tonight. We're very privileged to have Christine Welborn of Direct Action Texas, who basically brought this issue to the forefront, and we thank her so much, and so we're glad to have her.
Hi y'all. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to start with, since y'all were talking about the events, we actually, Grassroots America, We the People, Joanne Fleming put together a group of us who are working on election integrity issues, and we kind of went on tour. So we had one where we started in North Richland Hills. We're going to Denton, Dallas, Collin, I think Austin and Houston. I don't know. She's just telling us where to go when we show up. But basically, y'all are getting kind of a private, sneak peek of what we do. So Project Fort Worth is also going to be having, I'll be there again, and then also some extra people, some extra great information too. So if you don't feel like going to Dallas, it's okay, because I'll be covering more Dallas issues and Dallas voter fraud when we're out there. So I'm going to focus more on Tarrant County here. And I really could spend hours and hours and hours telling you about election integrity. Not going to do that tonight. But I am going to start with, so there's a lot of different problems that we have, that we're faced with when we're talking about integrity in elections. And the first problem I'm going to talk about is the math problem. So in Hill County, this was in 2016 in the Republican primary, they had their official results showed 9,038 votes were cast. The problem with that is 7,171 people were shown to have voted. So I don't think it really takes a math whiz to figure out that those numbers don't match. But guess what? No one in that county caught that. No one who was supposed to audit the numbers, the county chairs, nobody caught that it was off by that much. And then when we went in and we actually looked at the signatures on the combination forms, that you sign when you walk in, we actually counted the signatures and we got 7,295. And so obviously, I think we had like 9 different totals throughout. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So what Hill County did is, after we filed our complaint with the Secretary of State's office, is that they basically called in ES&S, which is their elections vendor, and ES&S found that the results were incorrect. You can see what's underlined there, which obviously. And they found out that what happened, the major part of the problem, was that they went through and they ran their absentee ballots to be counted. Then they ran their early voting numbers, and then they ran election day. Problem was, they didn't zero it out in between. So they actually counted their absentee votes 3 times and their early votes twice. That was how they got to that number. Next slide, please. Then the AG's office came in, and they found the number to be 7,301 minus 98 Democrat voters, 15 absentee voters, or adding 15 absentee voters, plus 1 canceled absentee ballot, plus 84 early voters, plus 31 provisional voters, plus 12 limited voters. They were way off, folks. There were lots and lots of mistakes made. So what we learned when we investigated Hill County is that we found out that, first of all, we need better access to data. There's a lot of counties out there in the state of Texas that don't even post who won and who lost. They post nothing about their elections. Tarrant County is actually really good. We're very blessed that we have great data on our website. But a lot of these counties, it's like pulling teeth just to get basic precinct by precinct data. So that's one thing that we're looking to fix this legislative session, which there's some bills in the works to work on that. But the other thing too is that we always start with the assumption that government is incompetent. So what we do is we go in and we basically say, okay, is this human error? And in this case, it was human error. There wasn't anything malicious. We actually, I met their elections administrator. Her name was Patsy, and she, I mean, bless her heart, She's just not all there. So she ended up retiring at that point, and her assistant took over. And the other thing that we need to really learn from this is that we need to know who's accountable. So we need to know who our elections administrator is. We need to know who that person is that's filling that role, and are they up to the task. So next slide. So in Tarrant County, the way that it works is you have the elections administrator is hired and fired by the County Election Commission, which is the county judge, clerk, tax assessor, collector, and the county chairs. And that's from the three parties that have people on the ballot. There's like a whole rule of what percentage, whatever, to get the libertarians in there, but they are. And then you have the county election board, and this is the person who, the group that determines your ballot board. Now, the reason why that's really important is because your ballot board is your last line of defense. They're the last people who touch the ballots. So, I'm not talking about anyone in this room, but most people have no idea who their county clerk is, who their tax assessor collector is. Now, in Tarrant County, we do. Right. But,
I'm short, but I'm here.
But in a lot of these counties, and a lot of people, they have no idea. And so they look at their election and they realize there's something wrong, but they don't know who to go after. They don't know who to hold accountable, and they don't know who to talk to. And in a lot of counties, the county clerk is your elections administrator. Sometimes it's the tax assessor collector. So, you know, that's the thing that's really important to know that information. Next slide. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is there's a form of voting which requires no ID. It's wide open for fraud, and the media, for the most part, ignores it. And it's been growing drastically over the last few cycles. And what that is the next slide, please, is mail-in ballots. And next slide. Now, the Office of Attorney General Prosecutor said in 2016 that if democracy stands for the principle of one person, one vote, then ballot harvesting stands for the principle of one person, 100 votes. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'm for one person, one vote. Next slide, please. Okay, so a harvested ballot is one that would not have otherwise been cast had the harvester not been involved. So we're not talking about, you know, this, it can be legal. So we're not talking about you helped your Aunt Susie because she can't find her reading glasses, or you helped your grandparents, or, you know, you helped your one neighbor or something like that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about organized groups who are going in with the purpose of harvesting votes. Next slide, please. And then I'm going to go into how it works, basics. Okay, so this is what an application looks like for ballot by mail, the standard form. Now you'll see on the very bottom of the screen there's a place for signatures. You can see the two X's. And what that is it's a place for assistants or witnesses. Now the difference between an assistant and a witness is an assistant is someone who just helps the person with their ballot. So maybe they fill it out, they mail it for them, whatever. If you do that for somebody, you are required to fill that form out at the bottom and say your name and your address and identify yourself that you're the person who helped them with that. Now, if you actually sign for the person, then you're considered to be a witness, in which case you have to fill that form out, plus identify how you're related to the applicant. And there's some stuff that would be really good to add to that. There's some great bills that are coming out that will add extra language. And the reason why I show you this, so there's all sorts of instructions on the side and everything that, you know, let people know what is and is not legal, what they can and cannot do. So, next slide, please. The reason why this is so important is because we have a lot of candidates lately, and it's really expanding. Governor Abbott did it last time, is that there's all these candidates who come out with their individual little tear-off sheets that they use for applications for mail-in ballots. Now, these are very problematic. So, according to the law as it's written right now, these are illegal. However, you notice that 3 of the 4 do not have a place for an assistant or witness, which means that someone could have assisted or witnessed, but they don't have a place to put that. They don't know that they're supposed to put their name on there. It's very difficult. Plus, the one down there that says waterboard, that one was printed on a very slick paper. Now, if you ever write your name on slick paper, it smudges right off. And that is the signature that the ballot board is supposed to compare to the signed back of the carrier envelope to make sure that the voter actually signed it. So if you have all these smudged signatures, that's a serious issue. Plus, I've had a lot of elections administrators tell me they are not fans of these because they're usually about this big, size of a postcard. They get lost easily, they get stuck together, and they don't have all of the information on there that really should be there. Next slide, please. So these are the contents of what the voter gets when they request a ballot. So there's a letter from the Secretary of State, there's instructions, a sample ballot, there's a ballot envelope, there's the carrier envelope, there's all this stuff, and there's all these parts, and it's really confusing. And if it's your first time doing it, or whatever, you might be overwhelmed. So this opens the door for someone to come in and literally to your door and say, let me help you with that. That's really difficult. Let me go ahead and help you with that. And a lot of people say yes because they think it's really nice. Next slide, please. So on this one, you can see where the yellow envelope is open. They're actually supposed to seal that envelope first and then sign over the flap. So that way it shows that they signed after it was sealed. Often this is not the case. A lot of times you will see where it had been opened and then closed again, or they signed under the flap, which is problematic but not illegal. Next slide, please. So this is how they do it. So the harvester is going to be a typically middle-aged to older woman. They're going to be demographic specific, so in a Hispanic area, it will be a Hispanic woman. And they present themselves as doing a service. And, so it's somebody you would let in your house. I mean, it's somebody who just is very non-threatening, somebody who just looks really friendly. And they really prey on the elderly, the disabled, people who English is their second language. Those are the people that they go after. Next slide, please. Now the application. So there's a few different ways that they handle the application. The first one is that they take it directly. That's the ballot. Back one. Oh, back. Sorry, you're going forward. Still going forward.
Okay. Hold on.
The other back.
Select the slide on the side. Tell me when to stop.
Now, there you go. So they prey on the most disadvantaged, and so, okay, now the next one. Okay, so first of all, they have no idea that the application is being sent in their name in one of the circumstances. So a lot of times people they'll take an application and they will just straight up forge the person's signature and mail it in. They have no idea it's coming, they have no idea that they've just requested an application, it just happens that way. And then in other cases, they will come in and they'll trick them into signing it. So one of the things that they talk about, that we've heard about, is they'll take like a big envelope and they'll cut a little hole out and they'll say, that that's for the privacy of the other people who have signed their petition. And they'll have you sign it because it's a petition, usually for promoting voting. And what they did a few years back is they actually used iPads. They did a petition where they had people sign the petition on an iPad, and then they used those signatures to lift them off and put them on electronically so they could email in and fax in applications with those signatures. Wow. Now, SB 5, which was a wonderful bill that passed last session, it actually got rid of any of those any electronic signatures. So everything has to have a wet signature, which means that it was a fresh signature that somebody signed. So you can, if you're up against a deadline, someone can send in a faxed application so that it's in on time, but then within 4 days they have to back that up with the real signature. Next slide, please. Now the ballot. So there's a few different ways they do this too. They have lots of tricks. So the first one is they just straight up steal it from the mailbox. There was actually a conviction of a postal worker who was basically trying to get bribes to reveal where the ballots were going to be, and basically tipping them off. We've also heard that postal workers would walk along, the ballot harvester would come after them, and they would see which ones they were put into. Another one is to take it from the mailbox and then trick them into signing it. So we actually talked to a gentleman in Fort Worth who had a woman come to his door and said, hey, will you sign up to vote by mail? And he said, no, we vote across the street. And she just insisted, he insisted, we vote right across the street, my wife and I, we don't want to vote by mail. So she said, okay, well, can you just sign my form so I can get paid, so I can go home? And they were like, oh, sure, sweetie. They didn't know they were signing the back of their ballots. So it was their carrier envelope that they were signing and they didn't know. So when they went to vote, they were told they couldn't vote because they already voted. So that's where the real voter suppression is these people who want to vote, but someone else has already voted on their behalf. So the most common method, though, is, like I said, where they come in like the friendly person, let me help you out. They ask you, who would you like to vote for? And the person says, well, I'd like to vote for all the Democrats. Well, guess what? It's a municipal election. There's no Democrats. Yeah, the person doesn't say, can you clarify that? They just fill out who they're paid to fill out on that form. And even if they're told who they're supposed to put on there, they still put whoever they're paid to put on there. The person doesn't know the difference. And that's usually how it happens. Next slide. So now we're going to look into some stuff in Tarrant County. Next slide. So this area is East Fort Worth. And everywhere that there's a little circle is where we identified some harvesting activity. Wow. And everywhere that there is a little circle has the same handwriting. Next slide, please.
Wow.
These are all applications that were sent in for people, clearly all written by the same person. And they were found in every precinct where you saw one of those circles. It's a lot of people, a lot of ballots. So the next slide. This is North Fort Worth. North side, Fort Worth. This is where we saw two individuals in particular. We found out later it was 4. 2 individuals who were harvesting in these areas. Next slide, please. So these are 2 women. These are sisters. It's Anna Garcia and Mary Medrano. Now, the top 2 signatures are the fraudulent signatures. The bottom 2 are their actual signatures. I know this because I spoke with these ladies. So these first 2, you can kind of see that they're very similar. So they look like they might have been signed by the same person. And in fact, I think that they were. And the bottom 2 down there, like you can tell really with Mary's, with the M's on the Mary and all that kind of stuff, you can tell those are not the same person that signed those 2. Because the top one is their application, the bottom one is their carrier envelope. And the ballot board was supposed to catch that those 2 didn't match. They did not. This was a while ago, before you were in office. Making that clear. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so here's Anna again. Now I want you to look really closely at this application and see the dot over the end, that kind of double X's on the side, just the basic way it looks. This is an application that was sent in for her in 2015. Next slide. This is an application that was sent in for her in 2016. It is the exact same application, just faxed in twice. Now the first one, I actually blocked out where it was faxed from, Reunion Title. Does anyone know who owns Reunion Title?
What did she say?
Sal Espino, yes. I did. He has Reunion Title, and after we did this presentation the first time, he decided he was not going to run again for office. Wonder why.
That's sad.
Next slide, please. So this is a woman who apparently does not remember how to spell her name. So all of these were sent in for her. You can tell like each one is spelled a completely different way. This one down here at the bottom with the blue box around it, that's her voter registration card. So here's the thing. So the Democrats want to take away voter registration cards. They want to do online voter registration, which means that we would not have had the ability to go back and look and see what this original signature looked like. So we do not want to get rid of that. That is something I want to make very clear. Online voter registration is an absolute mistake. Next slide, please. So right here is where you see what they did with the iPads. This is an example of what it looked like. So the application is on the left, and then their signature on their carrier envelope is on the right, which we believe to be valid. So you can see, I mean, it looks like the little kid handwriting like you signed on an iPad, right? But the reason why I bring this up is because the people who would go to the lengths of walking around with iPads, getting people to sign a petition under false pretenses so that they could harvest their ballot, they are capable of anything. And we have to make sure that we are constantly vigilant and we are constantly watching, and that we are watching these laws that are about to be passed in the legislature and making sure that they don't allow more of this. Because I will tell you, there is a bill to reinstate faxing and emailing applications. We'll do question and answer.
Okay, so all of this IDing is going on where they're saying, you know what, the signature's fake, the signature's fake. That's happening before the ballot count or after ballot count? I really don't know.
It's happening before the ballot's counted. It's actually in the ballot board process.
Okay.
So the ballot board members are supposed to actually check these signatures. They go through and they look and they match them to each other. And actually SB5 changed the language because originally it said that you're trying to determine if the two signatures match. We had it changed to making sure that they are the signature of the voter.
Next question. That lady from a few slides ago.
Right,
was
Anna?
telling me she's been arrested or something.
Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, next slide. So, Former Star Telegram said, when we did our first presentation, if some of these allegations turn out to be true, they may finally have their white whale. Well, guess what, Former Star Telegram? Next slide. We have 4 white whales. Okay. These ladies are allegedly, and I say allegedly because they've only been indicted, they're allegedly involved. Remember when I told you about Northside and then you saw those little circles? That's those top 2 ladies on the top. It's mother and daughter. And I want you to pay attention to, right there where I have underlined, there's a list of different people. It has their names there. One of them is Stuart Clegg. Now, Stuart Clegg actually was in a consulting firm with Deborah Peoples, who was running for mayor.
Oh my.
So,
She's the Democratic chair.
yeah, Democrat Party chair as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind when we go into this municipal election, that one of the people that I believe to be one of the main contributors to mail-in ballot fraud in East Fort Worth is running for mayor.
And is she gonna be taken down sometime between now and the election?
No,
I doubt it.
no.
So, next slide. So here's the thing, there's thousands of harvesters working in Texas each election. We've seen their work in Tarrant County, Dallas County, Kaufman County, Harrison, Nueces, Gregg, and Webb, and that's just the ones we've gotten to so far. So I want y'all to understand, because the AG's office testified to this, that they have a backlog of, I think they're currently working on, I might be quoting wrong, but something like 54 cases of what they're currently working on. They have a backlog of 80. So, and we also, as Direct Action Texas, have a backlog. So this is happening. It's happening everywhere. I will tell you that if you put a map of Texas up on the wall and gave me a dart and let me throw the dart at it blindfolded, I'd hit a county where I could find some sort of election fraud. Somewhere where election integrity is being compromised. Yes, ma'am. Do you want me to wait until the end to do questions, or do you want me to just, I guess we're kind of doing it. Okay, yes ma'am.
Okay, is there some way that you can send an email to the Arlington Republican Club to be shared with all of us, informing us how we can go about, I would like to do an e-blast to my friends and warn them, but I don't know how to compose the email. Can you send that out, and I will share it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also, if you sign up on our website, which is directactiontx.com, if you sign up on there, we're going to be sending out emails letting everybody know as far as what's going on with legislative session. Next slide. So why does the media get away with saying that this doesn't happen? Because that is what they say. And it's because what they look at is felony convictions. It is incredibly rare that you get felony convictions when it comes to this. First of all, it wasn't even an option before SB 5 last session. Most of these cases were misdemeanors. They've now been moved up to felonies. They're working on moving some other stuff up to felonies. You also have the establishment of organized ballot harvesting, which moves everything up a level. So, think of it as like organized crime. Most of what they pick up are just the low level, people, just the little harvesters going door to door, and they try and get them to flip on the people above them. And the problem is, so before, when we didn't have the felony option, they would just be like, oh, it's a misdemeanor, and whoever it was that paid them to harvest would pay for their lawyer. Well, now that it's a felony, it's a lot more likely that we're going to get them. So we're moving in the right direction. Next slide, please. So no one is suggesting that we completely eliminate mail-in ballots. They do serve a purpose. We're not trying to suppress the vote. It's about power and money through graft. So where we see this the most is in municipal elections. And the reason is you have big firms who pay to get particular people elected who then vote to grant them very lucrative contracts. So it's basically a circular system. So I'm not going to say it does happen in primaries. It does happen, in other elections. It can happen in a general election. So, but the majority of them are municipal elections, and it's because those are the people that are paying for them. There's simple reforms and enforcement changes we can do. I'm not going to go into too many of those because we will have updates on our website. So please sign up there to get notifications from us, like our Facebook page. We'll put stuff out. Next slide, please. And we will have call to actions so that we'll have times when we say, well, you need to call these people, you need to email. We actually have an incredible elections committee. We have some really, really great people who are very interested in this topic and who are going to be very helpful. So we have some really good chances of getting some stuff through. However, we were very disappointed when Governor Abbott did not make election integrity as one of his priorities. So one of the calls to action that we have is to remind Governor Abbott that we do still care about this issue, we do still find it important, and we do still want focus to be put on this. Next slide, please. So I have a lot of people all the time who ask me how they can help. And the main thing that you can do is be a poll watcher, a election judge, or a ballot board judge. Those are the places where this stuff happens. I've told candidates in the past, take your people from outside the front and put them inside. Because you may be greeting people, but if you think that there may be some shenanigans going on in that polling location, or there may be some shenanigans going on in the ballot board, you need to have people in there watching. It's so important that we have poll watchers, that we keep people honest, because the majority of this stuff happens when people just feel like they can get away with it. Yes. And if you're watching, then they're a whole lot less likely to try. Next slide, please. Now, one of the things I want to be really, really sure to communicate with y'all, and I'm really working on getting with activists about this, so I want to make sure that everyone understands the list maintenance process and what went down with the SOS. The list was not a mistake. What he did was not a mistake. Here's what I want to make very clear. There is no list of citizens for the state of Texas. There is no centralized list that they can check names across. The Secretary of State does not have access to the list of naturalized citizens. The counties are more likely to have access to that list because the counties will actually go to naturalization ceremonies and register people, and they keep a list of that. So either the counties do it or the League of Women Voters, they will go do that as well, and they will have access to the lists of people who are naturalized. The Secretary, yes, they're Democrats. So Secretary of State did not make a mistake. They used the most updated list that the DPS could provide. So the DPS provided them with a list of the people who had come in, and they had self-identified as non-citizens when they were getting their driver's license. Now there's a 6-year period for people who are, long-term residents in the US between when they have to renew their driver's license. So there is a distinct possibility that someone could be naturalized in those 6 years and therefore show up on that list and not be a non-citizen, and that they are a citizen, okay? So the list they put out was not flawed. It was the best information that the Secretary of State has. The voter, as far as the state of Texas is concerned, belongs to the county. So the county is supposed to have the most up-to-date records of anyone. So that what the state is responsible for is saying, hey, these are people who have identified to us as non-citizens, take a look at them. And what they did before they released this list, and I want to be really clear that everyone understands this, 200 of the 254 counties received training on how to handle the list that they received. They were told, do not immediately remove them from your list. They were told, just look at them. If you have more updated information that they are a citizen, then you do not send them a letter. If you don't have more updated information, send them a letter. They made it very clear that this was a may, not a shall, and that they were told, that you should be doing this. I've seen the actual training documents that were the presentation slides that they used. I know that every county was trained, and the counties that came out in the media and said that they had no idea what to do and they called it a purge, they were lying. They knew this was coming. They knew that all of this stuff was coming, and they knew how to handle it. The media took control of the situation and made the Secretary of State, the acting Secretary of State, out to be some bad guy. And he was only doing his job. And if you look back in 2012, they did a list maintenance session similar to this with 50,000 people that they thought to be deceased. That was actually Social Security Administration information, and there were some incorrect things on there as well. But the media said the same thing. They said, oh, this is a purge. Oh, it's voter suppression. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. No. The law requires that the Secretary of State engage in list maintenance with the county. They are told that they have to give the most updated information that they have to the county and pass it along, and then the county decides what to do with it. Now, when I said earlier that you need to know who your county administrator is for elections, this is where this is really important. There were counties who were told to do this, who know that they have non-citizens on their rolls and will not purge them. Pardon me, will not have list maintenance, will not participate in the list maintenance. They will not remove them from the voter rolls. They are choosing this, so what we're trying to do is in legislation is change some of these from may to shall. One of the things where they do require it is when someone goes to serve for jury duty. There are people who show up for jury duty and say they can't serve because they're not a citizen. And these people are on the voter rolls. Those people are automatically removed, and they are required to be automatically removed, but I cannot say with certainty that all counties are doing it. I believe that Tarrant County is doing it, but I don't believe that most counties are doing it. So I just want to make that very clear, because often people have said Secretary of State made a mistake, this was a big debacle. Their messaging was a bit of a mess. I will say that. But what they did was within the law, was following statute, and was all 100% correct of what they are supposed to do. The problem is we don't have the data that we should. The DPS doesn't have the data. The SOS doesn't have the naturalized citizens. There's no list of citizens. It just doesn't exist, unfortunately. And I wish it did, but it doesn't. So that's one of the main things that I just want to get through. I think that's the last one there. I just updated these. Yeah. So, any questions?
Yes, I have a
Yes, sir.
question. The state operates a database they call Teams.
Yes.
T-A-M-S.
Teams?
Yes, so when you say they don't have a list, do you mean that they don't have a list that they can corroborate that the person is alive, that the person is a citizen, and so on?
The
Or do
Teams
you mean
data-
they don't have Teams?
The Teams data that they have is from the counties.
Right.
So it's the most updated, but I'm saying that they don't have, so if somebody fills out a voter registration card and they check that they're a citizen, nobody checks that.
Right. Nobody cross-checks that.
Right, nobody cross-checks that. So they just take them on their word. So there's nobody going through and saying, hey, this person's not really a citizen. So anyone can just check, yes, I'm a citizen, and they get registered to vote. Yes, ma'am.
There's a reason for that. On the white voter registration card, they ask for your driver's license number. But if you don't have that, it's the last four driver's ID,
Right,
state ID. If they don't have that, then they put the last four digits of your social. So I called the Secretary of State's office and I said, is there anything special about the last four digits? And they said, no. And I said, so I could put 1, 2, 3, 4 and check yes that I'm a citizen and you would have no idea.
That's right.
I said, that's right. Oh, and by the way, on the card also, it says if you don't have that, the social, then just check here. There is no way when they just check here, well, unless they put a whole number, there is no way to check.
Right, and unfortunately, that's federal law.
It is?
It is federal law.
Even the
And
voter registration application?
yes,
I didn't know that, I'm sorry.
yes, that's actually federal law. Now, I will say there was an interesting case in Arizona. I don't have all of the details, but where they basically have two voter rolls. One is for the state and one is for federal. If you do not verify that you're a citizen according to the state, you cannot vote in state elections, but you can vote in federal elections. As far as my understanding of that goes, I could be wrong, but that's what the research I've done so far, that's what it's telling me.
Christine, what about this recent court ruling yesterday that Clinton judge?
Yeah, so we had a Democrat
Repeat the
judge.
question, please.
So she's asking about what happened with the recent court decision. And so there was a Democrat judge who essentially said that they can't remove anyone else from the voter rolls until they check with him first. So they have to check with the judge first, even though it's according to state law and federal law. They have to check that judge first. So I have a feeling that's going to appeal. Joel.
So the point of the harvesting is to steal elections.
Correct.
Can you share some examples of stolen elections in Tarrant County?
I can share. I can tell you which ones I personally think were stolen. One of the examples was we worked with Lon Burnham, who was a representative. I have seen enough evidence to tell me that Ramon Romero did not win that race, and it should have been Lon Burnham. I will tell you Steve Thornton, who lost to Sal Espino. That's another one that I believe I've seen enough. There's quite a few, and understand that usually when this happens, it happens as a slate. So basically what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we're going to choose the person that we're going to pick for every city council race, mayor, water board, everything that you can imagine that's going to be on that ballot, and they decide who is going to win, and then harvesters fill that out for every single race. Now, there have been cases where they'll just harvest for one race. In fact, we've seen in some counties that they'll have harvesters working against each other because they're hired by different sides. So that's really fun to try and figure out. But yeah, so there's all kinds of ways, but there's been several in Tarrant County. Steve?
Yeah. Do you have any information about the federal case down in San Antonio that's frozen everything?
that's the one I was talking. Are you talking about the judge that ruled yesterday?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the one where basically he said that we have to check with him first. Yeah. No, you're fine.
Yes, how big is your organization? How many people and where are they mostly home-based?
So, we have an organization of 2 people. Everything that we've done, it's just us. We certainly do accept donations on our website. We are fully funded by donations. So we would love to have our organization grow. We are pretty much, as far as I know, the only people in Texas that do this. There are other people who do different aspects of election integrity, but as far as mail-in ballot fraud, it's pretty much just us. So we can use all the help that anyone wants to provide.
Just your estimation, how many elections do you think were stolen in the 2018 elections? I know, like what you said about Arizona, you know, I definitely think that that's a case of fraud of that election.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as overall, I mean, with the numbers that I've seen now, I want y'all to understand that the 95,000 that came out from the Secretary of State originally, those are just people who are legally in this country who are not citizens. So I may or may not know the number of people who they have found that are not legally in this country, but are voting. And it is a very large number. In fact, I don't know how many of y'all saw the WFAA reporting that they did on Tuesday night, is that they actually found hundreds, if not thousands, of felons voting illegally. There were people who were still on probation or still on parole, and they had re-registered to vote and were not eligible. So in answer to your question, I think in addition to mail-in ballot fraud, I think we have a lot of people who are on our voter rolls who shouldn't be voting. So we have elections, I mean, stolen left and right, from what I've seen all over Texas through mail-in ballot fraud. But then we also have who knows how many people that are voting who are ineligible, and we have no way of knowing what that impact has been on our elections. Yes, sir.
When we see these big numbers for presidential campaigns, with what you know, what would your opinion of the percentage margin be that are due to this sort of stealing and fraud?
So I would say on the presidential level and nationally, I would say the number is pretty large. You do actually have states who have 100% mail-in ballots. I have no idea how bad that is. You know, you have other places that, you know, I mean, California just legalized mail-in ballot harvesting, where they can literally just take the person's ballot to the, you know, to the elections office and drop it off. You know, stacks of them, right? So you have stuff all over the state. I mean, you look at what happened in North Carolina. You look at what happened just all over the place, and it's just the system is so open for fraud that I really think it's been very frustrating to me, knowing what I know, that our elected officials, our Republican elected officials, have not been doing more to stand up against this. Because I gotta tell you, the Democrats are working really, really hard at destroying the integrity. I mean, I look at bill after bill after bill over and over and over that would compromise the system. Things that would, you know, and like mail-in ballots for everyone, like, you know, that allowing more assistance, allowing you know, people to giving more leeway to knocking on people's doors and taking their ballots. I mean, it's out of control, and I feel like our side has not responded the way that I would like to see, as far as just really now. Granted, I've been told that there's several bills in the works that are being worked on that just haven't been announced yet, but the filing deadline is March 8th. So I'd really like to see those.
Should we expect to see more ballot harvesting in this coming local election,
Absolutely.
even with the.
I do think we weren't able to crack into the east Fort Worth harvesting as much as the north side. So I think that's still open. I don't know, there's differing opinions on this. Some people think that because there's a spotlight on it, they're going to be less likely to harvest, which is very possible. But I do think that we need to be incredibly vigilant as to what's going on.
On the north side harvesting, was there like a consultant or a consulting firm that kind of ran it central?
Yes, actually.
What was the question?
I got the impression for that, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, so he was asking if there was a particular consultant or a particular firm that was working along with this. I will tell you that I believe the money to be coming from Lineberger, Goggins, Sampson, and Blair, which is, they are the people who basically are the debt collectors for cities and ISDs. And then also, I will tell you, you know, and granted, these are my opinions, and I'm saying this allegedly, but if you follow the money and you look at Stuart Clegg, who was named in the indictment, and you look at all this stuff and you put it together, it's kind of clear. But I think you were meeting consultants like Epstein, is that?
Well. You're behind the mic, I just.
Could be.
There was a.
That is definitely one to be concerned with. Yes, ma'am.
Why there are so many elected Republican positions in Tarrant County? Aren't we screeching about this?
That's a really good question. I really, the problem that you run into when you do anything with election integrity is that the media will attack you. I mean, I've been called a racist vigilante. I've been called all kinds of things.
I think all of us have been called names.
Right, but I'm saying that you know, the argument of voter suppression comes up. So I think it takes someone with a whole lot of courage to stand up and say, I'm not suppressing the votes. I'm trying to help people to vote their own ballot. And that's the thing that they face. And I've really seen this legislative session, I don't know about y'all, but it just seems like they're trying to do this kumbaya, we all love each other thing. And
Republicans are bad at that. Democrats aren't.
Right.
They don't do kumbaya.
Right, exactly. And so I think this is where we're really having problems in that we aren't standing up, and it's really frustrating. And anything you can do to communicate to your legislators that they have to be involved in this, because I'm telling you, I absolutely want to see the lives of babies saved. I absolutely want to see constitutional carry. But you know what? If we can't fix our elections, we'll never win another one. And I mean, so think about this too. So you look at, you know, when you had the race back in the day with Lon and Ramon Romero, you know, Lon and I might disagree on a lot of things, but I'd rather have him in there than Ramon Romero any day. So, you know, you have a lot of good, you know, the old school Democrats who have souls, you know, they have been pushed out by this. So they've been pushed out by the fraud. So they've lost as well. And, you know, that's the thing too, is that you got to realize that it's the extremes that are pushing this. And we could have a much healthier system if we fixed it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just for a point of reference, that attorney firm you just mentioned.
Yes.
We were talking about red light cameras earlier. Lineberger, Gogan, and Blair, the people that collect the fees for the red light cameras.
Yes.
Number two, you do these things.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Christine.
Yes, sir.
You brought up two very valid points, which is the mail-in ballots and the people who are not really eligible to vote registry. Are there other vulnerabilities in the election system? And if there are, who's looking at them and trying to propose a comprehensive solution to this?
Yeah, so there are other issues, and you do have Dr. Laura Presley out there. She's doing more of the stuff on the data side, more with the actual voting machines. And if you go to that Project Fort Worth meeting, I believe Laura's going to be at that one. David? She's not at that one? Okay. She'll be at the one in Denton, but she'll be doing stuff there. But yeah, so she addresses the data issue of if there's potentially fraud, as far as in the actual systems themselves, the counting stations, the code, that kind of thing.
I'm asking who's looking at it comprehensively and making sure it's secure from the point of registration all the way to the point where the results.
Oh, so who's making sure it's secure from the, like, all the, yeah, the answer to that is no one. We don't have a system in place with oversight. No one has oversight over these counties. No one has oversight over the state. No one has oversight of what's going on. We have cross-checks are required. Interstate cross-checks are required. They have been for years. They haven't been done. There's no accountability. So that's often the case with a lot of this stuff and with a lot of these officials. When you look at government, is there's just the law might be there, but it has no teeth, and no one has the authority to enforce it, and that's the problem. Sir?
What exactly does a poll watcher do, and how do you become one?
Okay.